Welcome to the Dysregulated podcast and the special series, The Intake Interviews. I'm your host, Elliot Waters. In this feature, we dive deep into conversations with individuals who have a lived or living experience with mental illness, offering real, raw, and genuine insights into what it's like to navigate the complexities of mental ill health. The aim is to bring authentic stories to light, encourage open conversations, and create a space where we can learn from one another. This episode may include discussions of sensitive topics such as suicide, self-harm, substance use, sexual violence, domestic violence, trauma, and other mental health related issues. These conversations offer genuine insights into mental illness, but they may be distressing for some listeners. If any of these topics are triggering for you, please take care of your well-being and reach out for support if needed. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The first thing really we need to explain is how we actually know each other. So
Yes.
How did we meet? I remember it like it was yesterday.
Same here.
I remember walking in. Well, it was in DBT, wasn't it? Dialectical Behaviour Therapy,
Yep,
the
at
gold
Toronto.
standard for borderline at Toronto Private. Yep.
Yep.
And I remember being absolutely shit scared when I walked through. And then I saw you. I was like, hey, she's about my age. That's good. This is a good start. So
You were
is
very
that how you
quiet.
remember it?
Yeah, so I remember walking in actually, and you were sitting down. You were there obviously on time. I don't know how after getting to know you. But
It
yeah,
took
you were
weeks of
there.
planning.
Yes, you were sitting there, and there was, who else was there? There was someone else, but you were just sitting up in the back corner. And I sat down and I was like, oh yeah, he's my age too. That's what I thought straight away. And then we kind of just looked at each other a couple of times. And then I think we sat next to each other, or maybe like one in between us
Mm,
when we walked in. Yeah, I think there was like this automatic like connection of, okay, I know I get this person. I don't know. I
yeah.
felt that. I felt very safe, and I felt like I knew that you and I were going to have a relationship from the time that we met, for sure. Yeah.
And it's good that you felt safe because DBT is a sort of therapy, therapy. So there's a lot of sharing of things going on by everybody. And you
Yeah,
don't really want anyone in that group that you don't really trust because that disrupts everything. And thankfully for me,
definitely.
I think that wasn't really a problem throughout the whole course, which went for 6 months, six
I
months of
know, so
fun.
long. I In that time I carried a baby as well.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
my first
do you
baby.
remember any of the skills that we learnt?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest ones that I remember is like the cold therapy, because I think everyone was really, when we did the ice and the water bucket,
Yep.
because it was such like a something that I kind of practiced at home already, because always used to shove my head in the freezer every time I was having a panic attack. It's something my dad taught me to do to calm down. So yeah, when we did that, I remember that. And then I feel like I've used some of the things as the years have gone on, but I do repetitively tell Jords that if I had the chance, if Elliot went back, I would do it again. I think I need to do it again.
I was about to say, I remember some of them, but am I very good at actually doing them? Not
Not
necessarily,
really.
especially in the
Yeah.
moment as well. That's an
I
area
feel
I've
like I
sort of
remember the
always struggled
people.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same. It's more
yeah,
the people that I remember, and the way that we all were, and how much we grew together. As you know, there was a lot of us that kind of stuck to ourselves, but then we had our little, there was that little group, where it was just us, and we enjoyed getting together each week knowing that there was something else to talk about, that everything in our lives, the biggest thing for me was like I'd rock up and be like, fuck, from last week to this week my world has been turned upside down and I feel absolutely crazy for it. I wonder what's going on in everybody else's world. Then we all sit down and have a chat. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like everyone's,
yeah.
had
We're
something
all.
happen.
That's right, exactly. They're all
Yeah.
different, coming from different places, but it's the same story. This up and down dysregulation, dare I say it? Great word, dysregulated.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really good. And you're right. It was, we could sort of grow as a group together, which was cool. DBT was
Yeah.
good. I'd love to do it again. And I probably should do it again, but I know it's hard to get
Same.
into, as we know.
It
So
is.
but it was
And
it was
having to
good.
show up every week was hard. Like that was one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and all the homework that we were meant to do that I never did, and
Yeah.
yeah, come in and be like, oh, so what are we doing
I think it
every
was the
week,
lunch
Elliot?
breaks. The milkshakes and the lunch breaks were the best and the free
Mm,
cookies.
yeah, yeah. Well, they got to keep you in somehow,
Yeah,
so that's
that's
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the
When was that?
structure
What what
that
year
would have
was that?
been. It's a good question.
2019.
Yeah, yeah. So what's
Yeah.
that? 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Oh,
Jeez, how things have changed
I
for the better,
know.
of course, for the better.
Yes. Oh,
No,
I
but
don't know.
DBT was, yeah, it was good. It was good just to feel validated, I think, and go
Yeah.
in there and be like you said at the start, it's like that guy gets it, and it's like you all
Yeah.
got it, and that was pretty cool place to sort of be in. So I just needed to do my homework and concentrate a little bit more. But
Oh, I
anyway,
think honestly, Elliot, you were so the what was the biggest thing for me is your intelligence. I think
oh,
and I remember coming home and saying to Jords, like, as soon as I had met you, I was like, I just knew this person is going to be my friend. And the way that you articulate words and the way that you are telling your story and the ability to be so vulnerable and share lots of parts of you, because I do know your whole story from that time of our life and from our
yep.
continuous, catch ups that just yeah again like growth. I know I laugh and joke and say oh yeah, is it for the better, but we have grown so much since that time in our life, and you still amaze me with how articulate you are with your words and your intelligence, and what you do for your mental health is honestly one of the biggest inspirations for me to keep going, so thank you for that.
I'm glad to hear that my check balanced. So that's good. Thank you. The money's gone in. No, well, that's very kind. That's very sweet. Thank you. And the same to you too. I think
Welcome.
something that we both probably struggle with is accepting sort of positive appraisal. And I would say the
Hmm.
exact same thing about you too. But I don't know if you would also agree. Like I sort of just didn't either. I don't know. But I think that could be just part of our makeup. But very intelligent, obviously,
Definitely.
as people are finding out right now, the intelligence level is through the roof. But it's not all smooth sailing. That's for
Mm-mm,
sure. So as you said,
definitely not.
you have three children,
Yeah.
and
Crazy.
so the good thing I hope about these interviews is it's going to offer insights that are beyond my scope, my story. So a lot of this stuff,
Mm.
or the majority almost, I think, of what we're going to talk about today is very different to my story, even though we sort of come to the same conclusion, which is this whole BPD needing to do DBT thing, but we've come
Mm-hmm.
at it from very different angles, which on one level is sort of sad, I guess, but it's exciting. It's good podcast content. So
Yeah.
go us. So we've written out a little bit of a rough idea because that's something that we need is a bit of structure in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your first point that you wanted to talk about was addiction and self-medicating at a young age through toxic friendships and relationships. Tell me all about that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, it is a bit of a long story and we'll be here all day. But I think the reason when I wrote that down is primarily because one of the reflecting points of this transitional stage of my life right now, a lot of that's coming up. And I feel that inner child and that time of my life is trying to replay itself through patterns in my adult age, um, which is just not linking like it used to, I guess. So, when I was younger, obviously, I was a bit of a rat bag. I had a bit of a rough upbringing, and I was severely overweight. I got bullied. There was a lot of checkpoints in my life where you could say that the trauma had kicked in, where that's kind of what formed toxic relationships with friends and with drugs and addiction. Um, so yeah, coming up into that stage when I was going into DBT, I was heavily addicted to weed. I would smoke breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like party drugs like crazy. Every week it would be Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it would just be constant. But the only other constant in my life throughout that was my Jordan, which is now my husband. We've been together for almost 10 years. Um, And no matter me going through that and having all of these toxic friendships, one particular that is really coming up in my life at the moment, my ex-best friend, he stuck with me throughout it all, and he's still here to this day. And he's also 10 years older than me. So I guess he was just kind of waiting for me to grow up and wanted me to live my life and do what I wanted to do without taking on that father role. But there had to be a point at some time that he did need to take that more, stronger father role on and be like, okay, enough's enough. And that's where DBT come along. And that's when I quit um, weed, and we started trying for a baby, and all of that happened. So I think it was like maybe a couple of months into DBT, I found out that I was pregnant with my first, Doug. But I was still friends with my ex-best friend, and we were still, dabbling and stuff like that. But I knew that that was the first massive change in my life. That was the first big transitional period where I was like, okay, I've got to stop what I'm doing now because it's not helping me. And, my partner, I can either choose Jordan, and I can choose to be supported and loved and have children and do what I want to do and kind of pull my head in and not struggle so much with this addiction kind of stuff. But I also had one foot in, one foot out. And I feel as the years have gone on, that pattern kind of comes into play. Yeah, a lot. So
Patterns is such
yeah.
a huge part of these things.
Mm,
They just
mm,
repeat over and over and over again.
mm,
Um, so it's interesting you mentioned that you were overweight at one point, because tell me if I'm wrong, better not
mm.
be. Your Instagram handle is elephant to stelliphant, right?
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
that's all about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and my username still got sleeve. So when I had gastric sleeve surgery when I was, I think I was 20. I was just about to turn 21. And I was 135 kilos, and I'd been big my whole life. And then when Jords and I got together, our bonding was over food, and we both just blew up like balloons. And he was 165, I was 135. Like, we were happy as Larry. We've traveled the world and eaten all the best foods and things like that. But I was still so uncertain in myself. And I think that was, again, another massive changing point in my life. Like, I struggled so much more than what I thought I would have with that. So I had the gastric sleeve when I was 20, and I was still friends with my ex-best friend at this point, and we were still dabbling in and out, even though I wasn't smoking full time. um I fell pregnant with Doug, and then before that, I got like severely unwell. I was mentally not great. I stopped eating. My brain was telling me, let's just see how skinny we can get. We've been big our whole life. I've never struggled with the opposite eating disorder. I always overeat and binge eat. And now I just wasn't eating at all. And I went through malnutrition. I almost ended up in hospital. I'm still trying to grow back a toenail from the time that I went through malnutrition, because I completely, just mutilated my body. I started to get a stench about me. I got down to a size 4. So from a size 24 to a size 4 in a matter of a year and a half. And it was the hardest time of my life. And then I fell pregnant with Doug when I was a size 6. And then from then, I guess it was just like each child, each thing. Like, yes, there's definitely been growth, but that is another pattern and something that I come back to, especially in this last postpartum, where it's like, oh God, like I need to get back to where I was, even though I don't want to be that small. So yeah, it's been, and George has also had the sleeve during that time as well. So, but he has not had the struggles I have had. But
And
yeah,
he
it's
looks
been
amazing, I might add.
he does.
Great
He's
guy.
so
As
healthy.
everyone's probably getting that impression already.
He
Great
is
dude,
awesome.
real solid.
Yeah,
Yep.
he
Yep.
is.
So I'm just remembering back to some of the things we spoke about in therapy, just on this
Yep.
part. Um, you had a lot of trouble with losing the weight from a mental point of view because you were sort of losing your identity, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how'd you
Yeah.
manage that?
Oh, I think in a way when I said something before, my brain would constantly tell me, let's see how skinny we can get. And that was one of the biggest identity crises that I have ever had, because my whole life, I've stared at these women that I deemed good enough in my eyes, that were tiny, small legs, could wear school shorts to school, didn't get picked on, all of these things, that I made this idealistic person up in my brain that I had to be. That I honestly, I didn't manage, Elliot. I self-sabotaged throughout the whole thing. And I still do to this day, when it comes to identity and weight loss. And it's always when everything's great, it'll still be that one thing in my mind that goes, okay, well, you've got to worry about your weight and what you look like. So yeah, I honestly, I don't have an answer for that, because I still am dealing with like trying to manage and how to be who I am and be okay with it.
Which is more than fine. I echo those sentiments very much so.
Mm,
Um, so addiction has become one of your main forms of self-sabotage, because of
hmm
this love sort of hate relationship that you've got, and
hmm
this need to dabble in the unknown, that impulsivity, I suppose you could say, which, it all
hmm
makes sense from a clinical point of view. But how has that affected you as a mother through each postpartum? How's that been?
I think after the first, after Doug, he's almost 5 now. It was very easy for me because Jords has always let me be myself and live my life. Like, even though he's had to take on the stronger role of like being a little bit more in charge with some things, he's also just, he can't tell me no. Like, no one can tell me no. And he's walked on eggshells our whole fucking relationship, and it is so sad. And it's something that, obviously it's gotten better through the years, but at that point after our first baby, it was like, I was doing this before. I've just given you your first baby. I'm still friends with this person. She's not a mother. Like, I need to live my life. I can't just be mum. So it was very easy for me to just go back into it. And there was a stage, and I hold it in my heart, the biggest guilt and grief stage, of that time. Dougie wasn't even 1 yet, I think. And it was my first, oh no, he must have been over 1. It might have been my second Mother's Day. And the night before that, I decided to go out and get absolutely shit face. And I was still up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I get a message like when I munted off my face saying, baby, I love you so much. I hope you're safe. It's Mother's Day in the morning. Are you going to be home for us? Because we'll be here waiting for you. And I think these little things, throughout, every time I go and try and dabble into the unknown, these things come up, and it builds that stronger, I don't know what the word is, but I guess that stronger sense to not want to be there anymore. And that's where it's turned into actual fear this time around. So I actually get scared when I do it, where the first time where I was just doing whatever, where I wanted, whenever I wanted. Um, yeah, like I look at that person and I'm like, wow, she was a piece of shit, like absolute piece of shit. Where now, if someone said to me, hey, let's go out and get on it, like I'm so self-aware now that it's like, oh fuck, like I've got 3 kids, I've got to wake up, like I'm gonna die. I put myself into panic, like I can't do this, and I have all of these things, but then I still do it. And that is what the biggest trigger for me is. It's like almost like the devil comes in and is like, all right, you don't want to do this. I know you hate it, and you've made several voice notes, and you should probably go back and listen to your voice notes that are telling you, Stell, you hate this when you feel like this, but fuck it, let's just see one more time. Like, how many times do I have to do it before I'm literally gonna fucking die? And my family are gonna be like, well, she was always that piece of shit. It's just a
Yeah.
weird, it's a fucking game, Elliot. It is the worst game. Excuse me for swearing so much, but I get so mad at myself, um, because yeah, when it came around with Lige, I, that fear had kicked in after the second for sure. And one of the biggest concerts that I've been waiting for, Flume, is my absolute favorite artist, and he had come back to Oz, and I had G'd this up, and Lige was like 5 months old, and I told all my friends, we're getting on it, like we're gonna have the best night ever. I didn't take drugs that night. And I had the best night because I had built up that much anxiety about, I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And then I got there, all my friends got munted, and I stayed completely sober. And I just had feared myself into that. And then, obviously there was other times where I have got on it since then, where it was a bit wild and fun. And but the hangover's just not worth it. And now the third, look, I've done a few lines here and there, but I haven't had a bender. I haven't gone on a bender. I can't, like, I've got my hens party coming up and I am petrified. Like, I'm
Oh,
petrified to
where's my
show up.
invite?
Well, if you want to come dance with all the drag queens, you can, babes.
I'd have to
Yeah.
get
So
munted for that to happen, I reckon.
yes, definitely. But yeah, it's just fear now. It's honestly just fear. And I hate it. Everyone I talk to, if someone said to me, "Hey, Stell, do you want to go out and get on it on the weekend?" This huge part of me is like, fuck yeah, like yeah, I'm just gonna ride off. I'm just gonna turn into this alter ego, like the big fun Stell that just used to be able to hold up and do drugs all night. But like the most part of me is like, Stell, you hate it. And every time you lay your head down after you've done it to go to sleep, the anxiety, the panic, the grief, the disappointment, the just all of this come rushing in, the voice that tells me, why are we here again? Why did you do this again? Then the other voice, like, it's okay, don't listen to that, like it's a fight with myself, and I'm sick and tired. I'm so over having this fight with myself.
See, it's a shame. I think we would all agree, even though this is coming from someone who also has substance abuse issues, but we
Mm,
would probably all agree that not partaking in copious amounts of these things is a good thing. So, yay for
mm,
that. But it's also
mm,
disappointing that the biggest driver, though, of you not doing it is this anxiety and fear. So it's like, okay, there's
mm,
a good, healthy choice in there, but it's clouded by just more negative emotion. And that's the
mhm.
problem. And that's what people don't understand what it's like going through this sort of stuff is that even the good decisions are clouded in negativity. Like you just can't escape it.
No,
So, it's
it's like a
so
hell, burning
it,
fire hell.
it is. Everybody has their own version of hell, and unfortunately, some of us tend to visit it quite often. And I would
Yeah.
say that you and I are both in that category. And then, of
Mm,
course, you use substances to escape all of that. And then it's just this cycle that keeps going and going and going. And it's like, what
mhm,
is going on? So,
mm.
but the anxiety, though, the hangovers, whoa,
I think
that's,
it's just a mother thing too. Like, obviously, I had that anxiety and stuff, anxiety when I didn't have kids, but it was a lot easier to recover. Where now it's like, having to face my children, these three beautiful boys that I've given birth to, and my husband that is like here making pancakes in the morning, saying, "Mummy doesn't feel well, like, just leave her alone. She got on the beers last night," and like, just makes a joke out of it because he likes to have a drink and sometimes he's hungover, but he never not shows up. Like he is constantly showing up. Like when I'm lacking, he's there, and I lack way more than what I'm on for, which is another fight with myself. So, yeah, I think the struggle of being mum, excuse me. Yeah, the struggle of being mum and having mental health and having to tap out and not wanting to tap out in the ways that I do tap out, but still doing it. It is, again, just a pattern where, reaching 30, I thought I'd be well over this. I really thought I'd either be dead or I'd be well over it.
mm,
Yeah,
surely we're close to growing out of it by now, growing out of our borderline
surely,
stage. People say that,
surely.
you grow out of it definitely. And it's like, well, not necessarily,
Yeah.
not without the hard work and the hard work actually
Mm,
paying off. And I feel
hmm.
like at times we do a lot of hard work, but we don't get the trade-off that we're sort of looking for, which
Oh, I
sucks.
agree. Yeah.
Really sucks. Let's get into a bit more nitty gritty about these postpartum depressions and your
Mm,
visits with psychologists, psychiatrists, and the sort of
mm.
medications they've put you on. How's that? There's a lot in that question, but
Oh.
how's that all played out over the years?
So after Doug, so he was born right at the start of COVID. So we kind of had like this little period where it was just a bit unknown, but it was still safe to go out, and I was able to do all the things with a newborn baby. But then it hit hard when, everyone says that like postpartum starts when they're a newborn. That's the easiest part. Every single postpartum, I'm telling you, it hits 6 months when no one wants to come see the baby anymore. Everyone's back at work. You've got no one, and you're sitting in this house, and then COVID happens that I'm sitting at home with this baby and he didn't sleep. I didn't sleep. He was still breastfeeding. Jords was sleeping in the spare room because he was still working 14-hour days and he had to. So, and he'd take him whenever he could, but like overnights we just worked out this thing, and I had PTSD from standing in that room with the baby in a carrier on the front of me, shushing him, bopping him, like, come on, Dougie, come on, go to sleep. And it just got so bad that he did not want to sleep anywhere other than on me. And I just had no escape. And I feel like that's when the drug taking kind of set back in on the weekends, because that was like the escape to get away. But yeah, the postpartum depression, I didn't realize how bad it was because I wasn't able to go to the psychologist. I had phone calls and stuff, but it wasn't the same. Like, I need connection. I need to be with other people and I need to be in the presence of someone. So I didn't really find that hard. I really found that hard. But the biggest thing was that I found out later on that my doctor had preempted that I was going to get postnatal and had on file a script for sertraline. And I didn't get this until a year after that I went to the psychiatrist, and he said, "Oh yeah, he's put it here that you can get on sertraline." And I was like, "Why has no like a year? I could have killed my baby in this time." Like, you know how bad postpartum depression can get? It is the scariest place. I was cooped up in this house. I walked kilometers and kilometers of Bonnells Bay with this child on the front of me just so that he would sleep. And, you know, there was points that, I don't want to bring up on a podcast, but that I've gone through with my psychologist where, let's just say, Doug and I were in danger. Like, honest to God, Doug and I were in danger. And I don't think anybody knew the severity of it because everyone was so wrapped up in COVID. And I am so thankful at the end of the day that my motherly instincts took over rather than the demons, because that was the most intense depression I've had out of all of them. So yeah, that was a long year. And I don't really know how I managed or how I got through it without any medication. I survived and I did it. And then when I went to the psychiatrist, I said, we want to try for another baby. This was like, another 2 years down the track. We want to try for another baby, but I'm feeling like this, and this. And he said, okay, well, you get on sertraline. And I did. And it just was not for me. It was horrible.
Wasn't for
Dry
me either.
mouth. Oh, the dry mouth, the brain zaps, the like just forgetting stuff. And yeah, it wasn't great. So I was also smoking cigarettes. I'd taken up smoking cigarettes in this time as well. Um, and then, yeah, I was on and off that for a bit. And then I gave birth to Lige, and he was a planned C-section where I had a very traumatic birth with Douglas as well. So, um, that kind of intensified the postpartum depression. And then I planned a C-section with Elijah, and that was like so chill, so beautiful, so easy. He was the easiest baby. He slept well. He was good. I took my meds every single day. I was still on the sertraline at this point because, like, whatever, I was just doing it because it made me feel not the way that I was feeling. And then I had to get off it. It just was no good. I think he was about 4 months old. And then I went back to the psychiatrist and said, we want to have another baby, but like, it's not working. I need something else. I'm, doing all of these things, self-sabotage. Like, I just don't want to be around my children. I'm feeling like my life is no good. Like, the grass is always greener, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, then I got on fluoxetine, and I'd been on multiple things before when I was younger. But in the recent years, this is what I've been on. And I got on fluoxetine, and I'm still on the fluoxetine now, and that has been lifesaver. So I smoked throughout Elijah's pregnancy, his full pregnancy. I hid that pregnancy like crazy. I didn't, yeah, it was a very disconnected pregnancy. And then I got on the fluoxetine, and then we started trying for Toby quite quickly. And then I fell pregnant with Toby and I quit smoking. I was like, nah, doing it. Absolutely. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And still on the fluoxetine throughout his whole pregnancy. But before I knew that he was a boy, everything was like fine. I was like, I'm having a girl, whatever. Like, everything was fine. But I think that's the next point that we'll go into. But yeah, I think the meds definitely saved me throughout Toby's um, pregnancy and just after. But now I'm noticing again, he's hit 8 months. I've got however long until next year when he starts daycare, and I've got no job to go back to, but I really want a job that I should be loving this time right now. I should be enjoying being at home with my baby and soaking up my last child and doing all of that. But all I feel is this guilt, Elliot, that I want to be anywhere but here right now. And some would say that that is postpartum depression. So I don't think I've ever maybe come out of it. The intensity of the first one, yes, definitely. But these feelings, and yeah, I don't think any medication can fix mum guilt.
Yeah, I guess by the sounds of it, some of these
Excuse me.
thought patterns are well ingrained, and were
Hmm.
probably, you know, showing themselves and being created long before this has all happened. But then now that it has the
Hmm.
opportunity, those deep grooves are now playing their part, and it's very hard to get out of them once you're in them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So were you ever on Seroquel or
Yes,
quetiapine?
sorry. Yeah, I
Yes.
was. So I was on that before I fell pregnant with Doug and all throughout the pregnancy with Doug. Yeah. I still remember when he was first born, because it would knock me out. Jords would have to like sit behind me and like wake me up and like hold me and latch Doug onto my boob to feed him in the night because I was that out of it. It was crazy.
Did you put any weight on with Seroquel, or did they warn you about that as a side effect?
They did, but I think the sleeve has been in my favor a lot throughout this swapping and changing of medication. Because I did put on a lot of weight, but I needed to because I was so tiny when I fell pregnant with him. And then it wasn't until Lige was, oh, maybe I wasn't even, yeah, when I fell pregnant with Lige that I had gotten off it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that's how we beat the Seroquel weight gain, is get the sleeve done. Right. All right. That's
No,
that's
no,
good to
definitely
know.
not. No, no,
That's
no.
my takeaway from this today. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
We may as well wrap it
goodness
up there.
me.
So you
Oh.
alluded to before about wanting a girl, perhaps, and that not eventuating.
Mm.
How difficult has that been?
I was certain. So this is like a whole other story in itself, but you and I both know how spiritual I am and have been since you have met me. I have been a little fairy in the midst of the forest with my crystals and all of my moons, and I've even got you involved with all of that over the
I was about to
years.
say, we after a DBT session, we went and bought crystals. I've still got
Yes,
them
we
too.
did.
They're
Oh,
charging at the
bless.
moment.
Well, I've got mine too, but they're just a dust pile at the moment. Yeah, so I that was my whole life. When I was pregnant with Doug, after all of the things that had happened and the getting off the weed and all of that, I went on my first retreat and it was my first solo travel. And I was very spiritual beforehand, but this was like my big spiritual awakening time. And it changed me. There was also a death before I went with a girl that I had worked with at the time, and it just completely like opened up this whole different thought process and I guess structure of my life of what I wanted to believe in. So yeah, I was very spiritual, and as the years went on, I got further and further into it. I created a business around it. I became a Reiki therapist. I was seeing psychics all the time. Like I was in it. Fully I would bleed for this. Like I was in it. I was obsessed. And it worked. It worked. For my mental health at the time, it saved me. Spirituality saved me, and I hands down hold that to my heart. But when I was still like that, and then when I fell pregnant with Toby, I was certain I was having a girl. Certain. I had spoke to three psychics. They all told me that I was having a girl. Um, yeah, at that time I was doing psychic elements of work in my own field of, what I was doing. So I was very much still in it, but things with the business, I was going back and forth on names. Things were changing. I knew I was changing, and yeah, it was a massive, again, like death and rebirth kind of situation. And then the day I got the test, I did the early test to find out what his gender was, and I was 100%, Elliot. I was 100%. And I got the call, and I was on my way to drop a tool off. It's just so weird how the universe works, but I was on my way to drop a tool off to Jordan, and I got the call in the car. And when I saw him, I just got out of the car and I dropped to the ground. Like, I know this sounds so dramatic, but I literally dropped to the ground in front of him, and I just started wailing, and I said, none of it's real. None of it is fucking real. It's all a lie. I can't go on like this. I am not, like, I'm done. I am done. And from that day, it's so sad because I don't even know who I am at this point, but I left that Stell on the ground in front of Jords, and I have never turned back. Like, there's still some things that I, still the way like I believe in and things like that, but the intensity of how I was performing all of that spiritual stuff, and how it was embedded into my life. Yeah, I haven't done anything since.
So
So,
I guess you felt cheated by life in a way,
mm,
because
mm,
I'm thinking when people's trust is broken and they're betrayed, whether it be by a loved one or whatever, a friend, etc.
mm,
Often what happens is all of a sudden this person that I trusted 100% is not
mm,
trustworthy at all. What else have I been thinking in my life that is certain that all of a sudden now may not be? And I guess in a
mm,
very sort of um, in a related sort of sense, in this case, it was the life doing the cheating because you were sure and promised that a girl was coming and
mm,
you'd made plans for that. And that was what all the signs were pointing to. And then you
mm,
find out that it doesn't happen. It's like, well, what else isn't true? Is anything true? What's real?
mm, mm,
And then all of a sudden this sort of void opens up, and I guess that's where these maladaptive coping strategies sort of come from, I guess, and where they come out
mm.
again. So, but that
I
must have
think
been
it
so
brought
hard.
on it was really hard. Honestly think it brought on a bit of psychosis. I think I was maybe in a bit of psychosis because I was doing Reiki at the time through my business, and I was so certain, and I was like, there was a psychic element to Reiki, and like everyone was like, how did you do that? How did you know that? And I think for me, once because I would stand there and go, oh, I don't know, because part of me always distrusted, like, I don't even know if that's a word, but I just didn't. There was always this thing that I was like, I don't know how real this is, like, am I rotting people here? I don't know, because I was so uncertain in myself that I didn't want to contribute. But yeah, like when that come along, I was just like, I cannot continue on like this. I cannot contribute to women's and children's mental health, because this is who I was working with at the time, and contribute to their faith and hope when these psychics had no idea that they had literally crushed my life. It's not their fault. They were just doing their job. But like, my life is fucking crushed, man. And I do not want to do that to anybody else, because broken people come to me for help and support and guidance. And I refuse to contribute to their mental health because it literally crushed mine. So
It's a
yeah,
dangerous
it was
game.
crazy. It was. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
huge. So so the world can be dark for us.
Mm,
How do you find in general day to day borderline living, if we can call it that? What's how does a normal sort of week look like? Is it normal, or is there just huge emotional fluctuations?
mm.
What sort of ways do you cope day to day?
I think definitely, like, I don't cope. I don't cope. You ask anyone in my life, I am the biggest stress head. I like to stay busy. I have a very structured routine. I do the same thing every single morning, every single night. My children are very routine based. that it's not for everyone, but like I don't take my children out after a certain time at night time because we have a very set routine, and I clean my house a lot. I'm very OCD. Everything has its place. I declutter a lot. I like to obtain a lot of things and then chuck them away. So there's always something happening, and I don't like to say any of this is healthy because for me, I guess when it's good, it's good. My head is clear. If the house is clean, my mind's clean. Um, but I get very bored, and my biggest thing at the moment now is the same mundane routine. This is where the self-sabotage comes in because I have a beautiful life, Elliot. I have everything I ever wanted. I could click my fingers, and it's my life is like a movie. I have no reason to complain. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I am the issue. I am the thing that keeps trying to sabotage it. And I have to just keep coming back to the present moment. I often cry a lot about my children growing up. Elijah turns 2 on Saturday, and only yesterday he was a baby. Like, or this time I'm passing and wishing away it's a form of coping, and it's not healthy at all. I was working out a lot, which was helping. The fluoxetine helps a lot with the mood swings and stuff like that, but Jords definitely, he knows me very, very well, and he can pick it from the time that he walks in the door. He'll know which cell he's speaking to at the time, and if it's like he'll just say, "Oh, you're anxious today," or like, it's this Stell, is it? Like, because I don't even realize I'm doing it, but there'll be days where I'm very submissive and I'm very like, I'm apologetic and everything's a bit too much and I'm trying to make everything right. And I'm very sensitive with the kids and very quiet and I don't even realize. And then he'll pick up on that and then he'll step in and be, the dominant one where he needs to get the routine done because he knows that will help with me. And then other days it'll be like, I'm like, a stickler for the rules, like dominant, blah blah blah. It just depends on the day, and I feel the fluoxetine doesn't allow me to cry as much as I used to, but yeah, every couple of weeks I do have a bit of a meltdown, but it's not as bad. Like I don't spin out and get angry and smash stuff and like I just feel like the kids have changed that part of me a lot. So if I'm getting cranky, it's because the kids have got too many freaking toys on the ground or they're not putting shit away. They're just being children, and that's where the anger comes out, where before it would be like everybody hates you, so you've just got to stay in your room and just rot.
Mm.
So yeah, I just don't have time to do that anymore. So it's come out in different ways for sure.
Just briefly, what official diagnoses have you been given over the years?
Yeah. So they got it wrong a lot when I was younger. It was like always like depression, anxiety, just from your GP, but mainly depression because your mum's got depression, like, whatever. But when I went to the psychiatrist, he said that I have BPD straight up, that anxiety comes in second, that he doesn't think I'm depressed. He thinks that the BPD brings on the depressive episodes, and PTSD.
Right. So your psychiatrist said to you what my psychiatrist said to me, which was the same
Mm,
thing, pretty much. So
mm,
there you go. Now, I've been very careful on this podcast when it comes to borderline personality to not demonize the disorder or the people who have
mm,
BPD. But I do refer, there's this BPD monster that lurks within me. And when I go off, it's this BPD monster that sort of bares its teeth. And, not that it happens as much anymore, but it definitely used to. Would you
mm,
conceptualize it in the same way? Do you sort of see this separate almost entity
mm,
that's all the negative and it comes out when circumstances allow it, like I don't know, being overtired, too many toys on the
mm,
ground, which
mm.
would frustrate me too, don't worry. So would you, that's how I sort of conceptualize it. There's this sort of monster that lurks within. Would you say the same thing?
100%. Like I always thought, I know we've talked about in the past of like DID and things like that. I don't necessarily think that I have that now, but I used to get so confused because I mentioned this to a lot of people when I talk to about my mental health. Like there's this devil and this angel, and like one's the reasoning, one's the just chaos. And it just comes in and swoops and opens the red box. I call it the little red box at the tip of my toe. That's where I lock everything and shove it right down. And as soon as that red box, that can of worms gets open, it's just hell for leather. And like, yeah, it's not as bad as what it used to be. But it plays out subtly like a lot in my life now as a mum, and I can see it. And Jords can see it. Everyone around me knows when, yeah, it's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah. I guess that's what DBT's good at, um, sort of putting a lid on those sorts of emotions and those episodes, I suppose, making sure that it stays within certain, acceptable boundaries. But unfortunately, I've found that it doesn't quite go to the heart of where this is all coming from for me. Like for me, it's self-esteem, and that's something I've got to
Yeah.
work through in different parts of therapy. But DBT definitely is good at keeping us on the right track, and if we veer off, not to veer off too far. So anyone
Mm.
listening with BPD, I would highly recommend the therapy. I'm not, it's not
Oh, it's
magic, but at the
amazing.
same time, it's definitely worth it. Has very strong utility, and
Hmm.
it's really definitely worth doing. So there you go. That's interesting about that whole BPD monster demon sort of idea, because
Mm.
I've always thought of it like that. I remember once I was, one of the rare occasions that I was smoking marijuana, because it's never been for me. And I don't
Mm.
know, I was greening out or something. It was horrible. But I remember having this like panic attack, but this really clear sort of vision, like not so much like a visual vision, even though that's what vision is, but like this feeling, I suppose, this profound feeling. It was like, yep, there's two of us. There's the positive and there's the negative. And unfortunately, we keep
Mm.
feeding that negative side, and it's getting stronger and stronger, and we need to feed the other side. So do you sort of see it
Mm.
like that as well? I'm very curious to know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I am obviously a very negative person anyway, I guess with all of these things. But I find that if I allow it, the world comes crashing down around me. Like as soon as I get it in my head and it takes over, it takes a little while to fill that other side up. And that's where it falls into the patterns of like trying to fill the void, I guess, through the addiction and XYZ. So, and I've dabbled with psychedelics and stuff like that to try and find some inner clarity and yeah, things like that. And I honestly have never met that part of myself other than when I'm in it, which is what scares me the most. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's like when it's happening, it's there and I'm talking to it and it's me and it's taking over. But if I try and channel or be, say if I'm in the other side, like trying to figure it out in through therapy sessions or anything like that, going back to parts of my life, and it's almost like I go blank, like I cannot connect, don't know where the connection is or where it comes from.
Disassociation, amnesia, perhaps.
Mm, mm,
Um, See, I do wonder if it's like, the BPD monster, or if we've all got this shadow within. We've all got a shadow within. That's just part of being
mm-hmm,
human. I just wonder if maybe BPD, in a sense, is our threshold for distress is lower. Well, it is. That is part of the diagnosis.
mm,
So our ability to keep the shadow in its place, it diminishes because of this, because our threshold's lower.
mm,
So I do. That's another reason why I don't always refer to it, because I do wonder. Well, am I making this out to be something separate, its own phenomena, when it's not really? It's just that the circumstances for us, the parameters are different, so it comes out more often.
mm.
I don't know. That's something I'm still sort of looking into, but at the
Yeah, it's
same time, it's great to
interesting.
hear your thoughts on that. It's because, yeah, I've always thought there's this other version of me, and unfortunately, it's the one that seems to be the more dominant, and that's the
It's
negative
fun
side.
though.
Oh
It's
yeah.
negative, but sometimes it can be crazy fun.
And that's sort of,
Oh,
it's not all bad. Like BPD, we have such strong emotions, but that goes both ways. We just need to get more of the happy, engaged
yeah.
emotions than the other side. And that's the difficult part, I suppose.
It's just the feeling so deeply. Like I can literally go out, and I always said it was just a tourist thing, but the elements, like if I am just outside, the wind can just set me off, like
Mm,
the water, any element, like I feel so deeply. If a song plays at the right time of afternoon when the sun's shining, like it's just the most minute natural things that it just ignites something inside me, and I feel and think so deeply, like so deeply, that it can be excruciating, but it can also be really
Mm.
beautiful. But I find as well, like I'm like a chameleon, like depending on where I am and who I'm around, it's like what version of Stell is going to come out at that time. And I always refer to the version I am at the time, or that I'm growing into, or where I've been. There's always a different version of me.
Yep. Yep. I agree with that 100%. I just remember too, before you said about going almost psychosis, that's exactly what
Mm,
borderline is. It's the borderline between neurosis and not psychopathy, and psychosis. So it makes sense that you would feel that. We very, very large levels of depersonalization, disassociation when things have hit the fan. Um,
mm,
a lot of putting it on, I guess, autopilot just to get through the day. And it's shocking. It's shocking. But hey,
mm.
look at us go. Look at us go fighting back. Are you in therapy now?
So I recently, well, when I was pregnant with Toby, I went to the psychiatrist and I said, I'm coming back because I think I have ADHD. I'm feeling overwhelmed, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I'm just going to go back through your notes because I remember that you went through this when you were pregnant with your second as well. So it's just this reoccurring thing that must happen when I'm pregnant, where I feel like I've got ADHD and I've got nothing under control and I'm overstimulated and everything's too much and I need to label it. So I go in and I panic and I'm like, you need to give me Dexies or something. Um, but yeah, he was like, no, like, I think you just need to manage it and come back to me. I laugh because I've rescheduled my psychiatrist appointment that many times because I don't know what to go back and talk to him about, because I now know that I don't have that. I've just got major OCD and I'm a stress head, and these things play out like they're ADHD, but they're not. Um and I went back and saw my psychologist the other day and we did EMDR therapy, which is
Yep.
very
Yep.
interesting. Um that was really great. Yeah. Um yeah, it was good, but like again, I left feeling, when I called to make the appointment, I was like, I need to go back to therapy. It was one of those days like, "Fuck, I'm not good. I need to go back." So I made the appointment. It was like a week and a half away. And then when that rolled around and I got there, I was like, well, I think we're actually just catching up because I don't know why I'm here. I needed to when I made the call, but now I don't know. So I think it's also a change of psychologists. I've been with the same psychologist for 7 years now, and I think she's just gone through everything, she can, or she's reached her limit with me, and she knows my story so well and things like that, that it does become more of a catch up rather than a therapy session. So no, I'm not. I was in holistic counseling, and that was really great when I was pregnant. But then again, it has that spiritual feel to it, and it gives me the ick every time I think about it. I just cannot get back into that. So yeah, which is still blows my mind to this day that I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. It's the amount of um, appointments that I've missed or gone in without any clue what to say is
Mm,
not outstanding, astounding. Um, in some ways, it's outstanding. Often I just go in there and go, oh, because I'm on so many medications, I'm like, I just need a script and just fall back on that as my default. Because
yeah,
BPD is so intense and it all happens so quickly. Um, there's often not much distance between a negative thought turning into a negative behavior. It's almost like it's
yeah,
simultaneous quite a bit, especially without
yeah.
therapy, to create that
Mm,
distance. So, really, what we need is someone to talk to in that moment, like you said, in that time, not I'm having
mm,
a moment right now. This is really dangerous, but I'll see my GP in 2 weeks. Like, that's not how it
literally.
sort of needs to work. But what can you do?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
can't.
know. I don't know how you sort of get around that. It's so difficult.
We
But
need to create a hotline. That would be really cool. I know there is hotlines, but they'd probably send us to hospital if we rang with half the stuff
yeah,
we would
a
carry on with.
BPD hotline. Yeah, without the
Yes.
stigma.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh.
yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. BPD is so
Mm.
complex, and like I said, it can happen. It comes on so quick. It's like, where did that outburst come from? Holy
Mm-hmm.
dooly!
Mm.
So what are you
Try
doing
having three little
today?
children.
Yeah.
when you have
Well,
one of those outbursts. It's insane. Everyone
yeah.
looks at me. Doug is so emotionally aware. He's like, "Mum, you just need to do your breaths. Let's do our breaths together." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh my God,
that's
what have I
nice.
created? Shut up! I love you, but shut up." He's
A well
beautiful.
adapted young man. That's who you've created.
Yes, I
And you should
hope.
give
I
yourself
hope
credit for that.
so. I really hope they are emotionally aware and I'm not fucking them up.
No, I don't think you are. Or at least not that I can see.
Thanks.
And usually I'm pretty good at picking up on that. So what other sort of hobbies and health practices do you have now? Are you still running your business? What's the story?
No. Okay, so I've spent so much money on that business, but I have no idea how to get back into it. I've put it as like a mental health page and I was going to do chaotic cooking, like live videos and talk about mental health. And like I had so many great ideas and I'm not doing the beauty because I don't have the space at home and also got a baby with me 24/7. So I can't do anything till next year, but that's what I'm honestly struggling with. There's an adult dance class that I saw. I used to do dancing when I was younger. Come up in my area, which I thought maybe that I could go to, which is on a Tuesday night. And it makes me very anxious thinking about going back into a group setting, but also like I know the benefits of moving my body and I dance a lot at home with the baby and I sing a lot. Those things do make me feel good and give me the dopamine hit, but then I get into the whole critic of like, being a singer and it not hitting the note properly and then hating myself and be like, I can't ever sing again. I sound terrible. Like I just ruin it for
Mm,
myself. The same goes with skating. I took up skating when I gave birth to Doug, and that was so much fun. And Jords is my biggest supporter. He took me every afternoon to get my balance, and I'm pretty good on them, but yeah, like I just am not good enough. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do it because I can't do this. And no matter how many times I try, I just can't do it. So I feel like it's a constant self-sabotage of like, I'm not worthy enough to do the things that I want to do. I don't do them good enough to what I deem good enough. So there's no point doing it. So unless
yeah.
I'm going to do it perfect, then there's no point. So
Do you
yeah,
have a similar problem? Because one of my biggest
I'm
problems is
so
that
sorry.
no, that's all right. Is that um what was I going to say? One of my biggest problems is that, well, one of them's going blank like I did just then, but another one
Mm,
is having this idea that if I try something with all of my ability and I don't get the result I'm looking for, then that means I'm a failure. So instead, I
literally.
just half-ass everything and be like, oh, if I really put my mind to it, I could do anything. But
Yeah.
so that failure's sort of
Preaching
in
the choir.
control. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
so
Look, I do
difficult.
go hard with things. Like the business, I felt like I went really hard because I loved it and I loved being around the girls and I loved what I was doing at the time. But I think the biggest thing for me now is that as much as I love that, like I ran a full weekend retreat, a women's only mental health retreat. I had the idea in my head and I executed it with my sister and we did this amazing weekend. And, I've done photo shoots and like I've all these passions and things that I've wanted. I pushed through that business and I loved it. But now, because I don't believe in that, I'm like, how do I move on? How do I do it without doing that? Like there's this push and pull kind of, I don't even know. It's something that if I feel like I'm more motivated. If my sister was here and was like, all right, we're running a retreat, I need that one person to be like, this is what you're good at. I need people to tell me, like, and then I'll be able to do it, if that makes sense. But if she was here and goes XYZ, I'd be like, yes. Or if she comes up with an idea, I'm like, hey, I could be really good at that. Thank you for that. And then I steal her idea. Like I constantly am taking from everywhere else instead of just going within and going, okay, what do I really want to do? What ignites me? Because I can't give myself the answers. It's like a blank. It's just laziness, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's not laziness. I think it's just you're dealing with so much. Unfortunately, the way that we've been wired, we're a bit on the back foot when it comes to just about everything. And this is just another example of that.
Mm,
Not diminishing its impacts at all, but it's just, it's so
mm,
frustrating. Like I'm frustrating
mm.
hearing your story, although I know it pretty well, but I've definitely learned a few things today, which is awesome. But it's frustrating because I'm like, yes, I feel the same. Why do we feel like this? And
Mm.
you wrote in the notes section, we've almost done an hour, so we'll finish up shortly. This will be part one
Okay.
of indefinite. But you've
Okay.
wrote here in the notes, I think this is really poignant, which is, I'm here once. Why can't I just simply enjoy it? YOLO. Why is it that
Mm.
we have this anxiety of the future? How bad is, dare I ask, your anxiety for the future?
When they ask questions in school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what do you think you'll do for work and all of that? I could not tell you a time in my life where I could think further ahead or know what I was doing or have a goal for 5, 10, 15 years. Like I couldn't tell you. When I was 16, I couldn't tell you that I was going to be here right now. I thought I would wind up dead or I just would stop living. Like not because I wanted to, die or do any crazy things like that. I just was living every day because I was so anxious about where I was going to end up. And I still am shocked. I look at my life now and I see my children and I'm like, how did I get here? And then I've got a 2-year-old, and I've got an almost 5-year-old, then I've got an 8-month-old. Like this time is going so quickly that I still cannot tell you where I'm going to be in 5 years' time. And that scares the living hell out of me because I am the type of person that needs to know. I need an itinerary, I need time, date stamps, like this is how it's got to be. This is the way it's got to go. And the uncertainty of life is what petrifies me the most because we are only here once, and I'm creating this beautiful, wonderful life for myself and raising these children and have the support of my family and my friends and my husband. And, you know, I can't tell you like, yeah, we want to buy a house. We want the kids to go to private schools, like all the things that, that you want for your children. But for me personally, I think I'm still going to be 50 and asking the question, like why are we here, why do we only get to do this once, like, and I've just watched one of my closest friends from school pass away from suicide, and he has 2 beautiful children to my best friend. They were introduced through me and they got together, and he had a horrible, young adult life. And watching that and being at the funeral and hugging his babies and holding my best friend's hand was just the most intense thing. And I've been, but this, it shattered another part of me, another death and rebirth. So I don't have the answers. And the anxiety of the future is something I think I will always struggle with.
Yeah. See, we've got very similar anxieties of the future, but you have all this responsibility, like a family and everything that
Mm,
comes with it, whereas I theoretically have no responsibility. You're not sure where you want to head, but I'm definite about where I'd like to head. And it's that anxiety around, what if we don't make it? We shouldn't even try
mm,
because, what's the point? Let's control our
mm,
failure and let's do it on our terms. But
yeah.
it's manifests itself as the same thing. And that's why this interview I thought was going to be really good because, well, on paper, we come from almost opposite ends of the timeline, and whereas
Yeah.
put it together, the way it actually manifests itself, the behaviors, the thoughts, the cognitions are actually very, very similar, despite all of
Mm.
that. So yes, I wish I had the answers to that too.
Yeah,
Existential
it's a heavy
crisis
one.
is huge. It is. Do you have much death anxiety?
Yes, major, petrified. Kids um just passed away driving down the street, and like it's like like the shudder of driving past it and just knowing that they're somewhere in the abyss, but I have no idea where, and like I've never seen them or I'll never see them again, or if something to happen to me and I would just be here but not here, and like no one will ever see me again, or if I always fear that Jordan's gonna freaking die, I'm constantly getting him to check his blood pressure, and it's like I'm one of those. I'm just, yeah, it's been really intense, and I think becoming a mum as well has intensified it massively. Like I'm using that word a lot, but that's how my life feels at the moment, like very strung up.
Yeah, BPD is so intense because of those strong emotions that everything is amplified. Every little moment is amplified, whether it's good or the bad. Usually, it's such a tough one to manage. But I'll tell you, I reckon you're going pretty good overall. I do. You have 3 beautiful
Thanks,
children.
mate.
Jords is a legend. We'll get him on for the
He
next
is the
episode
best.
and get his insights, because I reckon he'd have a few.
Yeah, he
Big
would.
fan of the show as well. So, my respect for him is, as we know, or as you guys
We
know,
do.
off
We
the
love
charts.
you.
So how about that? I reckon that's a pretty good place to finish this first episode.
A bit
I think we've
hectic,
got
but
a
yeah, we
lot
made it.
more. Oh, there's a lot more to dive deep into. I'm very excited, but I think that's a good hour sort of introduction. That's the introduction. That's
Yeah.
the overall sort of picture. So no, it's
I don't
very
even
good.
think I introduced myself.
Ah, it's all right. I'll do that.
All right.
I'll do it later.
Awesome.
He'll be right. It's a
Perfect.
dysregulated
No
podcast,
worries. Yeah.
It's not professional, but it's genuine. That's what it's all about.
It is. It's been fun. And
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you and everything you've done in this space that you've created for, not only, I feel like sometimes it's very personal. I feel like I've got you in my ears when I'm folding the washing and I'm like, yep, he was saying that one to me. That was definitely for me. So yeah, I think you're reaching a really wide audience and you're helping a lot of people, Elliot. And I am just so, like, every day I'm rooting for you, mate. And I appreciate you having me on here. It's been so much fun and I can't wait to get back on. You won't be able to get rid of me now.
No, especially if you keep saying nice things like that. If you keep up that, I'll just get on every episode.
Everyone plug the podcast. Just
yes, please,
podcast.
please. I need to start paying off my bills. Please, everybody, help.
Yeah, let's get rich.
Very good. Well, thank you, Stell. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
And we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.